Hi, friends. So I'm gonna introduce Jess in a moment. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull up her bio. I want to tell you a little bit about her, and I know she has an amazing gift as well over in the digital bundle. The way Mel, maybe after you can, in another break, we can just share what the portal looks like, just to make sure everyone knows. Like we have this beautiful online portal space when you purchase the bundle and donate, you get instant access to, and then all your goodies are there. And also later today, we'll be popping in the replays so you can go back and miss any of the activations and wisdom that you might have missed during the day. We're also broadcasting into Facebook right now, but those will be coming down at the end of the day. And you can donate and purchase the digital bundle until 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tonight. So you have till 8 o'clock tonight. We've got all the eights. We've got as many infinity symbols as we can bring in here today. I love it. Okay, darlings. So we've got Jessica Falcon is coming in. I'm so blessed and honored. Ooh, so excited to chat with her today and to receive her blessings and wisdom. Jess is a soul embodiment coach and activator. I'm going to read her bio here. She's done so many amazing things. So she's a soul embodiment coach and activator. She offers the forbidden fruit. So you experience the ecstasy of full-bodied freedom by connecting with your own divine essence. She guides you to radically embrace and accept every single part of who you are in a dance of sacred union. She has a group program, and one of her programs, Embody Your Divinity, is about reclaiming the holiness. I love that. Reclaim the holiness of your body, voice, and sexuality. She's a former lawyer and criminal prosecutor, and this inner work is real, it's grounded and practical as much as it is magical. Ah, this is going to be so awesome. Jessica, welcoming you here. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to be with you all today.
Yay, so awesome. And you're outside bringing us the nature vibes. That looks so
Yes, it's
nice.
my favorite place to be.
Ah, we were all saying that earlier this morning too. We were feeling into just what really makes us happy. And I think almost everybody had something about nature in the comments. That's great.
Mhm,
What part of
mhm.
the world are you in?
Asheville, North Carolina, in the
Oh,
States.
nice.
So a lot of green. I went on a walk in the forest earlier, lots of green. It's just green, 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 green everywhere.
Yay, I love that. Will you tell us a little bit more about you and what you're doing in the world?
Yeah, yeah. So Uh, I just love, there's so many things that you guys were saying when Melissa was talking and you were talking that is all a huge passion of mine, like the reclamation of the divine feminine, which is the reclamation of women as sacred, right? Because the traumas that we experience, the misalignment we've all experienced on this planet for now 5,000 plus years is rooted in the denial of the divine feminine. And so the work that I do is the reclamation of that. And as you said, love dissolves all wounds, right? And so it's coming into the embodiment of love rather than seeing the divine or spirit as separate from us as out there, which is the shift that took place that led to the denial of the feminine. We begin to reclaim our own divinity. We begin to reclaim the holiness, right, of every aspect of our experience here on earth. So it's reclaiming the sacredness of life itself. And through the lens of the heart, through the lens of our soul. And what I do is really take people on these initiations. The initiations are rooted in the ancient initiatory practices of Inanna, who is a Sumerian queen of heaven and earth, an ancient Sumer. And I love that. So Inanna started coming to me many, many years ago. And I love that she was buried underground until the late 1800s, 1900s, when we actually discovered her existence. We discovered the thousands, tens of thousands of stone tablets that contain the story of Inanna. And to look back at these sacred stone writings from 5,000 years ago and see that they are still so applicable to us today, that they are still so applicable to our own life. And they contain the medicine, they contain the magic, they contain the wisdom, that now that they are available, I don't think the timing of their retrieval is a coincidence. Now that they're available, we can then take that wisdom and use it to create heaven on earth. And we do that by embodying our divinity and reuniting with every aspect of who we are, in what I like to call a dance of sacred inner union, so that we begin to overflow with the love that we are, right? And we embody that, we are that in union with all things. And so the initiation journey is one that I know very deeply, because it's one that I walked many times against my will, my mind's will. As some of the speakers you were talking about earlier, these, we're often pulled a little bit, right, through trauma, through experiences, through the dark night of the soul. We're often kind of pulled into these paths because they wake us up to a bigger reality than the one that we have known. And when our eyes are opened and we begin to see differently, then for me, there was no other choice but to keep following that thread, so to speak, and to keep listening and surrendering into soul, to keep surrendering deeper and deeper. And I so often, I think like many of us here, kept my eyes out there for the answers, right? I kept my eyes out there for the solutions, for the healing. And it wasn't until I really began to turn my eyes inward and go into and access the power that lies within me, the love that lies within me, the wisdom that lies within me, that I truly began to actually heal and to really embrace my totality, the totality of my being that exists beyond this world and in this world. So I'll stop there because I could keep rambling and rambling, but I'll
No,
I have
I
so much
love
to
it. I'm
say.
just taking it all in, and I love Inanna too. Would you like to give us a little like Cole's notes of Inanna's journey? Because I think I might support some
Mm.
people today.
Yes, 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 yes. So, Inanna. So the shortest version I can give is that Inanna was the Sumerian queen of heaven and earth, and she had all of these beautiful temples in her honor. She was worshipped, and she heard a call to let go of it all. And she didn't understand this with her mind. She had no real rational reason, right, for like why her soul was calling her to do something else. And so she went and knocked on the door to the underworld. And it turned out that there were 7 different gates that she had to go through in order to enter into the underworld. And at each of the 7 gates, she was asked to leave behind an article of clothing or something that was of extreme value to her. Because before she going, she got all dressed up thinking this is going to be a wonderful experience. And she took her fancy royal robe and she took her lapis beads, right? And she goes through each of the 7 gates, and they're like, Nettie, the chief gatekeeper of the underworld, says, okay, now you get rid of these beads. Now you get rid of this hook. Now you get rid of this. And when she first started to resist, like, why are you asking me to get rid of this? He says, hush, the ways of the underworld may not be questioned. And so she would give it up, give it up. She gets to the final gate to the underworld. And when she does, the door is opened. And at this point, Inanna is naked, humbled, and bowed low. She'd been a queen, royal status. She'd had everything and everyone, the praise of the entire world, but it was all external to her. So she shows up in the underworld, and Ereshkigal, her sister self, her shadow self, gives her the condemnation of death. She points the finger of guilt, and she is hung on a hook to die. Her body hanging lifeless for 3 days and 3 nights, and the death, the darkness of the underworld. And before leaving, she had asked her faithful servant, Nalshibur, to, after 3 days and 3 nights, if she does not rise from the darkness, to beat the drum in her honor, to grieve, and to go to her 3 fathers. And so Nalshibur does this, and she's grieving. She's pulling out her hair, and she's grieving, and she's sobbing, and she's walking on the streets, pulling out her clothes, banging the drum. And she goes to the first 2 fathers of Inanna, who say, she got what she deserved. She chose to go to the underworld. I'm not helping her. No compassion, no empathy, no love. So then she goes to Enki, the god of wisdom and the waters, and she says to Enki, to help Inanna, she's been taken, she hasn't risen from the underworld. And Enki, who felt love, who felt compassion, who felt empathy, he took the dirt from underneath his pinky finger now, and he turned it into two beings, the Kugara and the Galater. And he disguised them as flies. He said, fly into the underworld, disguised as flies, and he gave them very specific instructions. So they go into the underworld. And once they arrive, they see Rishkigar, who's putting on it to death, now grieving the death of Inanna. And she's moaning in pain, moaning and hurting, almost as if she's giving birth, and her hair is wild. And she says, oh, oh, my liver. And they say, oh, oh, my liver. And she says, oh, oh, my stomach. And they say, oh, oh, my stomach. And this goes on and on and on until finally, Rishkiel turns her head and she looks at them and she says, who are you? Who has given me this gift? Because they saw her, they heard her, they honored her, and they did not look away from her pain. They did not try to change her. They did not try to fix her. They did not try to make her any better. They did not dare try to tell her it was okay. They simply saw her, which is love. Love sees, love is present, love is present. And they gave her that love and she felt it. And she, who had been deemed invisible and cast out as unworthy, as only queen of the underworld when she wanted what Inanna had in the upper world, she was finally seen. And so she says, what do you want? I will give you all of these this. I'll give you the gift of this, 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 this. And no, 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 we only want one gift. We want the corpse of Inanna. And so Rishkiko says, okay. So she gives them the corpse of Inanna, and they sprinkle, which Enki had given them, the food of life and the water of life on the corpse of Inanna, who rises and resurrects. She resurrects back to life because she had released the false layers of power, the false forms of identity to which she had clung. And she had come into union with the aspects of herself she had formerly denied. And she came into the newness of her being, her wholeness. All of her was honored, all of her was accepted, all of her was loved. But no one leaves the underworld without a replacement. And so the demons followed her out of the underworld. They followed her back up to earth. And she walked to her home city, where Dumuzi, who had been her king lover, sat and did not welcome her return. He did not see her. He did not look at her. He didn't even miss her in her absence. And so despite having walked by her faithful servants and the sons, and the demon said, let's take them, let's take them. No, no, no. They saw me, they grieved me, they welcomed my return. When she realized that Dumuzi didn't even get out of his seat to greet her, she said, him, take him to the underworld. And she gave the same cry of guilt and the same cry of condemnation Erishkigal had given to her. And the demons began to chase Dumuzi because once Inanna saw herself, she would no longer tolerate being invisible to anyone else, especially her lover. She demanded to be seen because she knew for the first time she was worthy of being seen, not for anything outside of her, but because of who she is. And that, to me, that is the embodiment of power, sacred power, that fullness of that love, that union with oneself that knows I am worthy. I am worthy of this. And if you do not recognize my worth, so be it. But to be in relationship with me, you must. And if that means facing your own subconscious and your own demons, then go. But I know what I am worth, period.
Oh my. Ah, you're such a good storyteller. I'm so glad I asked you to tell that story. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. And you truly, you know, you have to be able to live it to bring that much energy through it that
Mhm.
energy of like rebirth, death, resurrection. You
Yeah.
know, these, yes. Oh my
It is
gosh.
the
It,
ancient path to wisdom.
oh, tell me more about that.
Well, the Inanna's tale, that is ancient feminine wisdom. It is ancient feminine power. And it is the path. I mean, it is the path of coming. Wisdom is of the heart, wisdom is of the body. So it's the path of coming into the darkness to ascend. It's the path of going down into the depths to rise. And that is the ancient path of wisdom, which knows that, for example, in ascension, and this is perfect for the Syrian Lionsgate that we're experiencing, right? It's not simply about, oh, we're receiving these beautiful light codes and these activations and this energy. Yes. And they're coming to earth to activate our remembrance of who we are, so that we bring that down into the earth. We bring that down into our bodies. We anchor it into Gaia. We anchor it into every single cell of who we are, so that we become that here in form. And so it's the wisdom of being in that, union is the word, but it's even more than union. It's that, not turning away from anything, looking everything in the eye, especially your greatest fears, looking everything in the eye. That's wisdom. It's looking beyond the veil, looking beyond the illusion to the truth that lies beneath. That is wisdom.
Amazing. How do we get to that place of such deep surrender that we can be like Inanna in the tomb, that womb space, the depths on that meat hook, just like fully bearing all and dying a death, right? How do we let ourselves go there?
Hmm. Yes, the ego likes to resist it very much.
Yes.
And, I think it's a spiraling too, because I think for me, I can say that on my own path. Like, for example, when I left the legal profession, I had been very successful, for about 7 years as a criminal prosecutor and attorney. And I started to hear the call about a year to 2 years before I actually left, because I was so afraid of surrendering. I was so afraid of letting go of, right, the external forms of power, to which we're told are the only things that actually give us power, because we're so separated, right? We have what I like to call the Eve wounds that keep us separated from our authentic power. And so I needed that love, I needed that external approval, and to give that up voluntarily for what seemed like just this call to go away somewhere for 3 months, making no sense, just felt ludicrous to my ego mind, right? And so the process of surrender for me was, um, you could liken it to a dark night of the soul. It's where the ego has to, because the ego can be valuable. We're going to always have an ego here on earth, because the ego is the individuation. It's when it's not aligned right to the soul that we create that disconnect. And so I really had to surrender into kind of the deepest, knowing that I felt, and begin to trust it versus trying to push it away. And as women in particular, we're so conditioned not to trust ourselves. We're so conditioned to doubt ourselves. And it took me a year to 2 years to actually begin to trust what I felt inside, which is believing in the invisible, which is believing in the invisible just as much, if not more than the external, which is for me the role of a priestess, right? We live between the worlds and we're able to bring the invisible into the visible. And so it took a lot of time for me, coming from that very mental external focus, to really start that process. And then I was in that period of initiation for 8 years. 8 years is the cycle of Venus. So 8 years is the cycle of Inanna. So I had to go through it for 8 years. I take my clients through it much quicker, but I had to go through it for 8 years to be that channel. And it it really was this constant surrendering more and more. And I wasn't trusting myself. Trust is surrender. Surrender is trust. And and so it's a matter of trusting in what we feel and know, and being in union with that so deeply that we allow ourselves to release our grip finger by finger, sometimes just like one finger at a time. Like, can I let go of this finger? Can I lift this finger up? Can I let go of this one? And then, okay, can I allow myself to hang in the void and not cling? What is that like when I don't cling to anything? What is it like when I just let go? What is that like? And what I had to remember, and the only thing that allows me to continuously surrender, is the ego mind thinks we're going to fall. But the soul knows that when we really let go, when we really surrender, we are held. We are held by an infinite source. We are held by our own divinity. We are held by Gaia. And we are held. So we surrender to be held. So it's trusting, it's allowing, and then it's opening to receive that love so that we expand from that place, right? And then we are truly, truly lifting from soul.
I love that. It makes it feel more doable the way you're saying, like to feel on the other side of letting go of control and surrendering and trusting is to be held.
Yeah, it is. It's to be held. And I used to think it was the opposite. I used to think that
Yeah.
surrendering was giving up and not trying anymore, and that, oh, it was like, surrender, like the white flag. Okay, fine, I'll surrender. But it's really more and more and more. I feel like surrendering is surrendering into soul, surrendering into divinity, surrendering into love, like the deepest truth, and that invisible part of ourselves, being willing to trust it, being willing to hold on to that inner truth, even if there's no possibility for external validation. So that's why I say take the forbidden fruit, right? Because it required Eve to trust herself. It required Eve to say yes to what was inside of her. It required her to say, I am worthy of this. And I desire self knowledge. I desire wisdom. I desire to know the goddess. I desire to know my own divine nature. And that's what taking the fruit made her. It made her God creator.
Mm. What if we've lost faith? Like, what if something's happened in our life? We've been initiated by life in some way, and we're questioning that there is like something that will hold us. There is a higher power. We're wondering, why is this happening to me? And we've completely lost faith. What do we do then?
Yeah, I've been so close to those places. Like I've had so many dark moments on my path that I've had moments where I was like, is any of this real? Is any of this real? Um, am I just making it all up? So many of those moments, right? Of, I thought you would be here for me. I thought it would be differently. How could I be led into this horrible situation based on trust? And then experience what felt like pain, and feeling like I was losing faith. And that's why I feel like, so Mary Magdalene to me is like the epitome of faith, right? That was like one of her huge teachings. And almost always when I was at the brink of just no faith, almost always something happened to remind me. Something like, for example, there's this one moment when I was traveling in England, and I had this one moment of like, there's just no way. I feel like there's nothing that makes sense. I don't understand what's happening. I was in a really dark place. And at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I come across a random stranger on the street and have this major spiritual conversation at a street light at 2 o'clock in the morning in this random, place in England, that was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear to know I'm not alone. And so I can keep walking through the dark. And when we walk through the dark, we have to keep the light of our heart. Otherwise, we get lost in the dark. And that one little conversation just sparked my heart just a little bit to keep me going. And it's that being willing to see through the darkness to the light in our heart. It's being willing to see it no matter what, and cling to that, hold to that, no matter what it requires. Even if I'm in the middle of my living room floor, like just, I can cling to that. I can cling to that place in my heart.
That feels beautiful. It feels so hopeful, right? Like, no matter what's happening. And that level of trust in spirit that the messages come through like in the most unexpected ways, and to
Mhm,
open up to those kind of miracles and messages that come through other people, even strangers, to stay
mhm,
open and to engage in life. Because if we disengage from life, we hide away, we're doing everything on our own, and we're trying to avoid, we don't even want to go out the front door, we're actually missing out on those miracles of guidance.
mhm. So keeping our eyes open, right? So when Eve takes the apple, her eyes were opened. She saw what she had not seen before. And so the thing is, we're told that Eve was cast out of the garden. The only reason she was cast out is because she let fear stop her from remembering her divinity. Because at the time she took the apple, the male god in the garden went to the other gods and said, they have now become like one of us. Now they have become like the gods. And so it were what I call the Eve wounds, or these wounds of separation that prohibited them from recognizing this. It was fear, it was blame, it was shame, guilt, doubt, and unworthiness. And those 6 wounds kept them from staying to the God. Oh, I am like a God. I am your equal. I am like you. I have this divine power within me too. I also have my divinity within me. And that was that opening of the eyes. That was that freedom. That was that ecstasy that they were able to experience. And the fruit is also represented the goddess, right? It's experiencing that here on earth. There's so much to that tale. It's like really packed, but that's a super simple version. And so it's when we open our eyes to see, which is actually opening the eyes to the self, not out here. So when you open your eyes fully, you're not opening your eyes to the external world. You're opening your eyes to yourself. You're opening your eyes to your inner world. When you open your eyes to your inner world, you see and you know and you are.
Powerful. Did you have any fear of being judged when you left from being a criminal prosecutor to being a spiritual teacher and this incredible woman that you are today, empowering others to really like surrender and trust and be the best version of themselves and to feel at peace? How did you feel moving forward? Were you scared or nervous at all doing that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fear of
Great.
judgment has
Good.
been like probably one of the biggest fears. And I think that particularly on the priestess path and the reclamation of the divine feminine, we can irrationally feel fear of judgment. Because for many of us who have reincarnated before, that fear of judgment is rooted in the fear of persecution. And that if I am this, particularly if I'm bringing out magic and wisdom and the invisible, particularly if I'm talking about goddess and women and empower, like, then I will be killed. And I've had so many past life memories of being persecuted. And the fear of that, quite frankly, recently started to unravel on a deeper level for me. And the fear of judgment could sometimes be paralyzing, and it creates this cloak of invisibility, and it creates smallness and contraction, hiding, right? And it's through really, for me, there's no way for us, particularly as women, because of the immense amount of persecution and judgment that we have faced for millennia, it's not easy to move through the fear of judgment. So it really requires asking our soul, our divinity for help, and surrendering deeper into that, and coming into this grounded knowing, this embodied. For me, it was really important to go and do it through my body, and to really allow myself to come to the point where no longer did I need anything outside of me, no matter how small, to know myself as worthy or powerful. And it's that process, that untangling process, that took me deeper and deeper and deeper, and to being able to face judgment, to being able to face criticism or ostracism, because I know my invincible nature no matter what. I know I'm eternal no matter what. You can think or do what you want, but I know who I am. And that's Lilith, who offered the forbidden fruit to Eve. That's Lilith. She knew that she was made of God, because there are 2 stories in the Adam and Eve. There are 2 stories in Genesis. And the first one, was Lilith. This is in Jewish mythology, and that she was made at the same time as Adam, that they were made together, both in the image of God. And she knew that she was worthy. She knew that she was made in the image of God just as Adam, and therefore she asked to be on top half the time sexually because she wanted just as much physical pleasure as him. And he refused. And so she said, well, I will not tolerate a state of submission. I will not tolerate being underneath you because I know I am just as worthy as you. I know I am divine as you are divine. And so she spread her wings and she flew away. And this recognition of that divine worthiness is rooted in her knowing of who she was that exists beyond this realm. And when we recognize that, the fear of judgments dissipates. It doesn't mean we don't have our human response. We can still feel sad, disappointed, angry, but we go, okay, and then back to that divinity. And I choose what to let in, I choose what to keep out. That's my boundary, rooted in knowing of who I am, because boundaries arise naturally when you're rooted in a sense of self.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm just taking this all in. I love it. I love Lilith as well, just as this like symbol of radical independence, that's really been more prevalent in society in the last, decades or 50 years or so, especially. And
Yes.
what you're bringing forth today is just these beautiful mysteries and mythos and stories that are a way for us to reconnect to a women's, history and lineage that wants to be unearthed and remembered and deepened into. Because I don't know about you, but I wasn't taught these stories as a child, but I yearn for them. I love hearing them. I love deepening in and finding and collecting as many as I can to understand the many faces of myself, the many identities that dance within me. And I think goddess devotion for me is the best way to do that.
Yeah, because when we reconnect, so when heaven and earth were split, right? We're disconnected from earth, disconnected from the goddess. It was forbidden to worship the goddess because the soul of woman was denied at that time. And so when we begin to reconnect to the goddess, she helps us remember our divinity. She helps us remember our power, which is rooted in love, which is rooted in our innate connection to all things, versus seeking power, wounded power through the wounded masculine. I don't even think what we see now is true masculine. It's a wounded form of masculinity. And so it's really about rooting back down into that wisdom that lies within our wounds, that lies within our bodies, knowing that the divine exists within every single cell of who we are. And for me, these are more than myths. They're energies that I work with. They are real. They exist beyond time and space. And I didn't know they existed either until they started coming to me. And I feel that they are here now for a reason. They're here now to help us remember, to help us reclaim our power, to help us reclaim ourselves as holy and sacred and invincible, so that we reclaim not only ourselves, but the feminine and the earth and the goddess as equally divine and equally powerful. And it literally creates heaven on earth when we do that. It's a shift in consciousness.
Absolutely. And everybody, I'm curious, we're talking a lot about power and divine feminine power and a kind of feminine and maybe even women's power. What is power? Everyone, just go ahead and open up your chat. I want you to play along with me for a moment. And let's do a little brainstorm together. Everyone just pop something in there that comes to mind. Like, what is power? It could even be on the negative scope of things, or it can be this more feminine power. Like, let's just kind of get to the bottom of this and get through all the layers of this, because it's a lot of different things. And I think, with this feminine perspective, that we might have a different idea of what power is compared to maybe some other people. So strength, yeah, inner strength. I find that as women, we love to feel into power as inner strength. So it's not power over, it's actually something that comes within you. These are amazing, everybody. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
What? I love this. Jessica, you are inspiring us to get to the bottom of this. Agnes, knowing self-worth. We've got the strength, confidence. Yes. Acknowledging self-awareness. Yes, Jemima. Strength, self-empowering self-love, yes, that worthiness, free will, and sovereignty. Oh my gosh, free
Mm.
will, everybody. I love, Allie, thanks for bringing that up. We really want to remember, like, especially as privileged women, we do have free will. And so that's in our manifestations, our goals, and where we're feeling into ourselves as limitless. We get to remember that as well. We do have free will, and we want to remember and use that. Peace and love. Power for me is to sit in your knowing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Alicia, power is being able to be relaxed. I love that. So there's then an absence of the resistance, controlling, self-respect, autonomy, balance, confidence and courage, spiritual and financial freedom. Ooh, yes, these are amazing, everybody. Oh, I'm feeling the energy of that. That's incredible. Jess, how would you describe the power? How do you, this divine feminine power, like what the heck is that?
I think it's embodying your divinity. Like, I really feel like when you embody, you know yourself as divinely worthy, you are powerful beyond this world.
Get
You
there
are
though, because we
invincible.
feel like we're faking it. Like as you're speaking, I'm like, I get it, but then how do I actually do that without feeling like I'm faking it or an imposter or I'm just kind of like pretending?
Yeah. So um, it's when it becomes ingrained in the cells. And so there are particular practices, activations. It's partly that, right? Shifting the energetic body and shifting the emotional body. For me, I actually found that you create a mental awareness, you create the mental structure for doing this work, and then you go into the emotional body and you begin bringing your thoughts and emotions into an alignment with love, into an alignment with your heart. So you become kind of, and you become an integrated being. And you're also simultaneously, because it's a spiral path, you're also simultaneously creating that energetic shift by, and I feel like that's why these beautiful energies work through me with light language, is so that through vibration and frequency and light language, we're able to literally go in and alter the energetic structure. And then you can also have the capacity, a simple practice as well that you can do at home every single day, is to say something like, I activate the light of God within every single cell of my body. I do that every day. I activate the light of God within every single cell of my body. You can say I activate unconditional love. You can say I activate the light of source. You can say I activate the goddess, like whatever feels better and more resonant for you, right? But it's activating that energy in every single cell of your body. And then I'll imagine that literally it's activating, and I'll imagine that the trillions of cells in my body are activating into alignment with the divine unconditional love of my being, and I can feel the shift taking place in my cellular structure. And so I'm feeling light language come through. Can I just allow some to come through? Do we have time? Okay. Nikashikaino shonia kunetola kia shuni kadakia shona kia to ni ata ya to ya. Can I shako tatia shonia kona pia toka? Can I shuna ni natula kanaya? Wona ni nakulaka shuni kania tuna na ya to ya yo ya. Oh, kita kaya no shikala katun. Ni kita breathing into your heart space. Anchoring it down into your womb space. Even your tailbone. Bringing your awareness into your core, back to your breath. And just feeling the golden nature of your own being. Every cell activating gold, gold, remembering your own divine nature. Bypassing any resistance of your mental mind and just knowing and trusting that it's being done regardless of what your mind says. The mind is a servant to the heart. Not the other way around. Breathing into your heart space. So I'll take a deep breath in. Exhale. Letting the breath bring you down all the way through your tailbone into your legs and feet. One more time. Breathe in. And then you can open your eyes when you're ready.
That was amazing. Oh my God.
Sweating.
What just happened? I'm just thinking about your lawyer friends, like your fellow prosecutors. If we invited them in here right now, what they would be feeling. I just love it. Like it's just so like next level. But I would imagine you could look back like on your life and see the golden threads, like how being a criminal prosecutor, supporting the work you're doing now, and everything you've been through, all those dark nights of the souls have really gotten you here to be able to give so generously and boldly. Like what you just did is, I feel it. My blood and bones is powerful. I don't even have to put words to it. And it's also it has a level of boldness to
Mm.
it. And were you always bold like that?
um I mean, I guess as a criminal prosecutor, you have to be somewhat bold.
Yeah.
But I
Like
would
born
say,
to be bold.
yeah, it was a different level though, right? It was like, it was always still needing that external. And I've done so much work. Like it's taken me years to really trust that it's safe to be seen doing this. Like that it's safe to speak light language publicly, that it's safe to be talking about the goddess, that it's safe to be talking about religious history and mythology and ancient civilizations. And like it's safe because for so long it wasn't. And so it might look weird, it might look different, it might look odd, but for me, I really had to believe in the invisible. Like this is true for me. This has shifted me. This has changed my cellular structure. And if it can do this for other people, and the goddess like warring within me, that's like, come on, this is why you're here. You're like, I'm like, okay, then the surrender into that, right?
I love that. Yeah, that feeling of being like divinely guided and protected and resourced as you really fully embody it. And you talk a lot about the embodiment piece. What does that mean, like to be embodied in that level of resource and divinity? And of course, we do have a body, but what does that mean to you?
Mhm. Oh, so I think it always starts as a like a thought or a belief, right? And we start to do the mental work, and then it becomes embodied with time and consistency and actually putting it into practice.
Mm.
So bringing it down into like, this is not just a thought, but it's something I'm actually going to act on. It's actually something that I'm going to trust and then speak, or trust and then do, so that it's not just up here. It actually becomes a part of your lived, breathed experience. And that can also include creating safety. For me, safety and trust are the two biggest components of the work that I do, because particularly as women, those are the two things we have not felt for 5,000 plus years. And so to really create safety within yourself, to really create trust in yourself, so that you're able to embody your wisdom and you're able to embody your authentic voice, not the mental voice, but the true deep voice that lives within you. And to really come into that embodiment is to anchor it down into the feeling state consistently, over and over and over.
I love that. Thank you. Oh, it's been so amazing. I could talk to you all day, but I'm really grateful because you also gave us a gift for the bundle too, for the charity, for the fundraiser. Will you tell us a little bit more about the womb activation gift that's in the bundle?
Yeah. So I had so much fun recording it. I never know what's going to come through in an activation, because I'm a channel, right? And so I never really know. I kind of set an intention and set the space. And it was really about this particular activation was really about grading into Gaia, because when we're activating the power of our womb, we're activating our connection with Gaia. And in addition, we're also really bringing in cosmic divine energies into the womb. And so for me, that's what activates the womb, is that anchoring of heaven and earth in the womb, and it's anchoring into that space. And so that's really what it is. It's 30 minutes, right? 31 minutes, a little over 30 minutes, of just doing that, using light language, breath, awareness.
Is that
Yeah.
something that's meant to be repeated, like something that we could like listen to multiple times? Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would recommend, trust your intuition, right? Because what it's doing is it's actually going into your cells, and it's activating a deep remembrance. And so that's what light language does. It really activates deep levels of cellular remembrance. And so when you listen once, um, it's going to be done. But the more you decide to listen, if you feel called to listen more, trust that until you feel like you don't need it anymore, until you feel like you don't want that anymore.
I love that. That makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, you've given us so much today. You're such a beautiful storyteller
Thank
and
you.
bringing us through processes. I can feel the energy shift through your storytelling, and your use of voice is just so beautiful. Like you're really expressive, specifically with your voice and through that piece of embodiment. And it's just really powerful and beautiful. And
Thank
just
you.
really appreciate what you're bringing to the world and your, again, the boldness with which you do it. And it's like if we could all just take a little spoonful of that boldness to support us in our own creations today, I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and I love, yeah, we could talk all day and go into all this beautiful
Oh,
wisdom. So, and it's so lovely to have such a beautiful group of goddesses here with us today. So, thank you all, and thank you for creating this beautiful space for the Women's Refugee Commission. It's really, that sovereignty and our right to choice and the right of sovereignty over our own bodies is a massive piece of this reclamation of the divine feminine. And without that, right, like that's where the grief, that's where the trauma is, when we're told that we're not allowed to choose for ourselves, right? That's the ancient persecution of women. You don't have the right to choose for yourself. And so this work is just, yeah, I'm so grateful that you're doing this, so thank you.
yeah, it should be ancient. It should be ancient history, not current day practice. But we do not consent to this. Now we're
Right.
doing our part to make shifts and changes today. Everybody is, and we really appreciate it. Thanks, Jessica. Thank
Thank
you. Have a
you.
fabulous Lionsgate Portal, and we'll see you again soon. So
You
much
too.
love.
Bye to all of you. Thank you.